morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday morning. We are very, very lucky and excited to be hosting this webinar this morning. My name is Marissa Arnold. I'm your current chair and Northern Ontario director of the YPN committee. This morning, we have returning panelists, Nathan Morrissette and Georgia Lavarini. So welcome back. We are also extremely fortunate to have Justin Konikow here with us. The subject of today's panel is about why your personal brand is so important and is really essential to the growth of your business. So before we kick it off and before I let Justin introduce himself, we're going to get through a little bit of housekeeping. If you wouldn't mind keeping yourselves muted, and any questions, please just pop in the chat or in the Q&A section. We're going to try to get through as many of them as possible in our short hour. So there it is. Welcome, Justin. I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself if you would.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and shout out to everybody that's here for making the effort. I see we got a full house of attendees. I love YPN networks. I love giving back to the industry. It's given me so much. And the chaos that is Justin, you're going to get a little bit of insight into today. My name is Justin Konikow. I own a company called Prime Real Estate Brokerage. We're located in London, Ontario. At one point in my life, I was just like you. I was an agent that wanted to sell a house. Then I wanted to sell a bunch of houses, dominate a neighborhood, city. Now I run a team of about 30 people. We also own two companies a lot of people don't know about, Prime Media Productions and the agency side. So my background's marketing and advertising. My wife, who's my partner and the brains of Prime, she is the MBA business girl. I would be more of like the chief marketing officer. So today we're going to dig into how we kind of got to where we got.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. I'll kick us off with our first question. Here we go. How would you define your brand?
So right now, I think there's two clear brands. And later on, if you guys can let me screen share, I'll actually outline it and show people examples of it so they can implement it in their own life. There's Prime Real Estate Brokerage, which is the brokerage. And then there's Justin Konikow. Prime as a brokerage brand is very unique from the position that we're not really a brokerage. We kind of just play one on TV. We're more of an agency that happens to specialize in real estate, meaning we don't recruit. We have a waiting list of probably 35 to 40 people that want to join Prime, but we don't hire. We do it quarterly and very select if we have the space for them in the company, not the brokerage side, right? So Prime as a brand is the very best real estate brokerage in Southwestern Ontario with global connections. So locally owned, global reach. We truly do have connections everywhere on the planet. I'll show you guys my referral map and actually how we built it so you can do it in your own business later on. And we really just want people to think of us first when it comes to the most trusted name in real estate. Justin Konikow initially was Prime Real Estate, like we were kind of one and the same. Now we're really trying to separate that a little bit. And I'll show you kind of my personal brand, which is actually geared more towards groups like this, trying to educate and inspire the community to do the things that we did, because I don't think it's going to take food off my plate. You can do it, attract your right fit clients. And the cool thing is we can work together. So like consumers are going to work with Prime, agents are going to work with Justin. And that's really the two buckets that you need in any real estate business to be super successful, right? I think we focus a lot on clients, but collaboration within the industry, I would argue, has led to more success than just working with clients.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Nathan and Georgia, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that in terms of defining your brand?
Sure. I mean, Justin, I kind of wanted your take on it, just like from a real estate agent perspective, because, you know, in the industry, we see a lot of different logos and marketing, and people are, you know, maybe confusing some of those things where, oh, I have a logo, that's my brand. And then, you know, maybe some realtors will focus on branding or marketing them and their company more so, or their team. Just your thoughts on that and what you've seen that works. Because I've seen very successful realtors that do both, right? They focus just on kind of their own personal thing, and then maybe more so with the brokerage, and they do it well. We have a lot of people in the industry that do it well. So what are your thoughts on that?
So am I able to screen share? I'll kind of outline this very clearly for you guys and show you an example of somebody everybody knows. So let me screen share, make sure I'm sharing the right screen. If I show you my calendar, you might have a heart attack. All right. Can you guys see this, Sir Hint?
Yep.
Cool. So everybody knows Ryan Serhant. He's obviously done quite well in his industry. Here's his actual personal site, right? So to outline, like, he has two companies, right? He has Ryan Serhant, the personal brand, which has 1.7 million followers. What's his logo? Non-existent. I would say most people, right? Serhant, the actual company, I don't know if it actually shows the followers right now, the actual follower account. I'll see if I could refresh it, but I'll show you in contrast my personal one and my company. No, it doesn't show the follower account, but I know it's tiny compared to his personal brand. Here's my personal brand, 13.6. Here's my company brand, 2000. It's almost the same metrics when it comes to Serhant versus Prime. And the reason that I wanted to show that to you was I've been through it, right? Like, I actually just had one Instagram page at one point in time that was Justin Konikow / Prime, and I was putting everything there. The problem that I ran into was when I was starting to sell through other people, team members. I know every agent that wants to work with us, yes, they want to work within our ecosystem because they want the training, the accountability, the network, but they kind of want to be the person as well, right? Everybody wants to build their own independent brand, and we want them to. We actually truly believe that the agent's personal brand is the future of real estate, that the logo that they work for, whether it be the company or their own logo, that is more just an indication of the quality or the system or the ecosystem that they work in, right? So I think of Prime now as like a Nike logo on an athlete. We know exactly who the avatar is that is going to wear that logo, and it's not for everybody. It's very specific. So for agents, to answer your question, that are like, well, I got to get a logo and I got to get a color palette and I got to get all this stuff ready before I start selling real estate, I would argue you don't. You can actually watch a podcast I did with Sabina Malik on the Prime People podcast. She does all the branding for people like, I believe, the Dan Cooper team. Scott McGilvery is the guy who actually introduced me to her. And on that podcast, she talks about the Mercedes logo and how, if you look at the history of the Mercedes logo, it's gone from a very complex logo to a super, super simple logo. And in the branding world, the future of logos may be that we don't even have a logo. There's just an icon or a word mark that is a signature. So I would tell people not to get paralyzed in the branding of themselves and the logo and the color palette. At the same time, I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline of how you can focus so you feel like you're ticking that box and there's some cohesiveness to your brand across the platforms.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, let's talk about building trust. How do you go about building trust amongst consumers and followers and the like? It seems like it's just such an overarching theme, and it's sometimes, for some people, it seems like it's super difficult to do. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can. And since I'm speaking to a group of real estate agents, how many leads have called you and said, hey, I'm interested in purchasing, and you're like, amazing, I'm going to help you. My service is like nobody else's. You set up a portal for them. They're in your CRM, and then you've never followed up with them. I think, like, I've done that many times in my past, and I'm sure 70 to 80% of other people have done that in the past as well. I think the way you build trust is by following through, right? And the way that you follow through is you create a system that you follow that is very simple, that delivers on the promises that you make. So the way that we've done it in our business is it starts with the CRM, right? It starts with we use Follow Boss. So I have a system on how I use Follow Boss every day. If you go on my YouTube channel, I actually show you with the screen share how I use the system, but it's simple and repeatable. And then I just categorize my clients that you were asking about into 3 buckets, which are people that are leads that have never met me, probably maybe don't even want to talk to me, people that are in the market but aren't really ready to do anything for 3 to plus months, or people that are hot prospects that are ready to buy within 0 to 3 months. Then I deliver my expertise in a way that they want to be communicated with. So I'll give you an example. Longer term nurturing, newsletter, showing them what it's like to work with me in a way that isn't pushy and they can be drawn to me. My YouTube channel, right? Not my personal YouTube channel. If I'm talking consumers, I'm talking Prime, my market expertise. What is it I can tell them about my areas in real estate that they cannot find on MLS? So as you're nurturing and you're building these relationships over time, they consume it and they consume it and they consume it, and they already know what it's like to work with you. So by the time they call you, you're not selling them at all, right? The way that we draw in clients through our content and our branding really tells them that we are a very white glove service. We're not the cheapest. I put that in my content. I explain why. and we draw in the right types of clients and we repel the wrong types of clients. I'm sure there's lots of people that don't call me because of my content, but they're saving me thousands of hours of cold calling them, showing them properties to figure out they're not right fit. For people that are cold leads, like we all deal with, I don't just call them and say, hey, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate when they try to get off the phone with me? What I try and do is create a human connection. So the other best way to build trust is something Ryan taught me. So I've been mentoring with Ryan since 2018, since before he had the courses and everything. He's a very close friend of mine now. And he taught me then, people don't want to be sold, but they love shopping with friends. So if Nathan calls me for a lakefront property in Grand Bend, I would literally just say, hey, Nathan, it's Justin from Prime. You clicked on the link for my lakefront property. How are you? And Nathan would say, oh, I'm fine. I'm sorry. I just clicked on it. I don't want to talk to you right now. Okay, no problem at all. That property specifically, there's some coastal issues up and down with water levels. I'll just send you the information. If you want anything from there, let me know. So in that one instant with somebody who didn't want to talk to me, I showed him what it was like to work with me. He's like, what do you mean there's problems with water levels? Erosion? Like, I didn't know that. And I'm clicking on these beautiful properties and I was just going to go straight to the listing agent, cut you out, Justin. All of a sudden, I'm building a relationship. Now, the key is in the follow back. So a week later, I'm like, hey, Nathan, there's a beautiful property in the Oakwood, beautiful sandy beach. It's priced at like 2.9 million, but I've heard that they really need to move it. Let me know if you want to chat. I'm slowly building the trust. He's like, dude, this guy's tapped in. He already knows that this seller may want to move this property super quick. So the way I do it is I compartmentalize who am I talking to? What are they trying to obtain? I document that in my CRM because I'm pretty average in terms of intelligence. So the system helps me document that consistently. And then when I follow back, I can over deliver on the value. And I don't overthink it. I think so many agents, they just don't call leads back because they feel underqualified. They don't know what to say to them. I don't do any of that. I just keep it super, super simple. And I follow back probably more than anybody.
So why do you think it's so difficult for most of us to follow through and to do the work?
I think because we don't have a plan, right? I think most people have a system. Your system is just not having a system. The reality of it is, right? So do a time audit. Do it today if you want. Set a timer on your phone for every 15 minutes and then keep a notepad and write down physically what you're doing. No cheating. Like if you're scrolling TikTok, you have to write that down. Do that for a week. And then at the end of the week, look at what you spent your time on, right? And somebody taught me once that if you looked at your bank account and your calendar, it would tell you what your actual ambitions are. And if you have ambitions and your actions aren't mapping to your ambitions, you have to change your actions or change your ambitions. And you don't need to live the life of a 500 deal a year agent. Like I've got people on my team that are happy making $100,000 a year because they're investors as well, or they want to travel the world, or they want to build referral businesses, or they're multidisciplinary, right? So, and I think more people need to get away from the celebritization of what it means to be a real estate agent and get deeper with what their ambitions are, and then implement a system that is simple and repeatable. And I'll give you some super hacks right now. And this is like insider stuff, because when my agents join Prime, we go over this. I'm like, all right, Georgia, we're going to talk about your calendar. How do you typically schedule your week? And she's like, well, I just, I get up super early and I do my morning routine. And I like to like jump into my CRM and then go for coffee and do, okay, awesome. Like, what are the core things you need to do to move your business forward? You need to learn every day, right? So study the market or do a course or something along those lines. Go to YPN, OREA, and follow all their stuff. You need to prospect daily. Those are the two most important things you need to do. Learn and prospect. You could stop doing active stuff for a week and then that would still be there, because if you're learning and prospecting, you're always filling the funnel. Then you need to work on your business. So you need to work on a system, right? Start a Google document and it's Georgia Incorporated. And this is how I talk to sellers. This is how I talk to buyers. This is how I follow up, and like get detailed with your SOPs. So you do that every day. And then I would tell her, you're not taking appointments in the morning, Georgia. You're going to actually set time blocks in your calendar Monday to Thursday. I don't like repeating tasks on Friday because I like taking 3-day weekends and keeping my wife and daughter super happy. So Monday to Thursday, you're going to learn and you're going to prospect every morning. You're going to do your best to keep your appointments to the afternoons, evenings, and around those parameters. Friday, Saturday are going to be floating days, and you're going to rest the equipment on Sunday. So you're not going to work on Sunday, right? Not everybody has to do it this way, but this is just how we did it. Now, the interesting thing is, now that we have a plan, She wakes up, she already knows what she's doing. She's going into Follow Up Boss and she's using the system that we built, and she can be done her prospecting in 30 minutes if she's actually focused on her time. She goes in, builds a little SOP. By the time she's done lunch, she has done more in her business than most agents will do in a week. Because the reason that people aren't able to follow up, follow back, and follow through effectively is you wake up, first thing you do is you grab this, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, you check how many people replied to your stuff, check your emails, and you are just like, your heart's in your throat. You're reactive because you got a bad email or a deal's going sideways. And you're just like, you're no longer in control of your day. Where our world is quite the opposite. We don't touch the phone until we're done. My thing is prayer, right? So I pop open the Bible, I read, I journal, I work out, I time block my email, I time block my scheduling as well to make sure I know what my calendar looks like. Then I jump into team meetings, prospecting, building time. By the time I'm dealing with the world, I've already done my probably 2 days worth of work. So after 10 a.m., I'm totally fine if the world falls apart, because until then I've done the important things. And another podcast that I shot with Andy T really breaks this down. And he says after 10 a.m., nobody can control their day. And he, I believe, did $1 billion in GCI in Silicon Valley last year, or damn near close to it. So he's somebody I pay a lot of attention to.
Interesting. Okay. So time blocking your day, making sure you get back to people. I love it. Nathan and Georgia, anything you want to add?
I do have a question. I kind of want to pull it back a little bit. So we use Follow Up Boss as well.
Sure.
And I do kind of want, you talked a little bit about the difference between like long-term nurturing and how you would send a newsletter to that client. So can you touch a little bit on what the importance is of customizing a process to different leads and how it's not kind of all standard?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're working in your CRM, and again, a lot of this I go into depth on my YouTube channel, I think it's really important to understand the basics of your CRM. So if people are watching this and they're like, what is he talking about? Or you have a CRM, but you don't really know how to use it. Keep it super simple. Name, email, tags, stage. Those are the only 4 things you need to track, because if you decide you want to unplug from Follow Up Boss or Chime or KV Core, whatever, and go to another or a CRM, you want to be able to export all that data and keep it super clean. And also, if you want to sell your business, how clean your data is how much money you're going to get for your business. Because if I sell my book of business to another brokerage or another agent, there's actual tangible value in it, right? So when I look at how I communicate with those people, I'll break out investors and general clients as 2 buckets, right? Because investors don't really care as much about my market updates as they do my weekly deal of the week, right? So I have a newsletter I send out to a very dialed in group of people that are investors with my thoughts on investments that are available in my marketplace. Why that's super important is I got tons of investors that are all over the world. 70, 80% of the time, they're not in the market. But what it helps them do is it's a digital bus sign. Oh yeah, Justin's still doing investments. He's the guy, right? We host monthly events. It keeps it very top of mind so that they feel like they're hanging out with me, even if I haven't talked to them in a year. So that's one reason, right? So I just tag investors, and then I have it in MailChimp. So I have a system where I'm constantly updating that list and making sure that they're there. What's cool about that too is when people do put their hand up, it makes it very simple for you to bring them to another level of communication. So the weekly investor drop is a very general one. When people raise their hands and their clients under fiduciary duty, they get a much more one-on-one experience where they're getting the off-market deals first, so that they feel like, well, I'm a client, I'm getting a different level of service than the general investor list. The prime group, the very general newsletter that we put out for the company, this we've played with a number of times. And initially it was very London focused, right? People think of us, they think of London because that's where the head office is located. But we do Woodstock to Sarnia, Lake Erie to Lake Huron. We have a team that goes all over the place. And I started realizing a trend. If you look at the people like Tom Story, Steve Saracen, guys that are killing it on YouTube, people really don't necessarily care about the micro right now. They're very big on the macro. So we made a shift where we still give the information to all 4 of those categories of territories we cover. We just use the stats from L-Star and the different boards that we're on. So we make those a very simple infographic, but the high level thought of the newsletter is the Canadian real estate market. What is happening? Bank of Canada increased rates 0.25. What does that mean? Well, I watched the actual update and then I gave you my actual interpretation, showing you what it's like to work with me. We are giving shout outs to people in our newsletter about, local businesses and people that I think are giving back to the community, interesting facts. And we play around with it a lot to find something that is engaging. And we ask for feedback in the newsletter as to like, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? Here's an example. To keep people engaged, we realize nobody really cares about what we're doing and selling. So instead of having a massive just listed and just sold section, it's very small and it's at the bottom. It's probably the last thing you see if you even make it there, because it's not really about me, it's about the audience. So to answer your question, Georgia, I would think about like, who do you serve? So Prime serves all of those people. Justin Konikow's newsletter is very different, right? I serve this community. I also serve people that are in the entrepreneurial space. I don't sell coaching. I don't sell anything. I don't want to recruit. I just do it because I didn't have it when I was getting into the business. And that's my way of giving back. So that is a completely different audience that 10 years ago, I may have sent you my insider's newsletter for real estate. And you'd be like, unsubscribe in a heartbeat because you don't care, right? But if I send you something and send you a free PDF on how I time block my day, that may be super valuable to you, right? So I think it just takes a little bit of planning, Georgia, to map out who the different people you want to communicate with are, and then over deliver consistently to those people and just make it a non-negotiable.
And
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead,
Sorry.
Nathan.
no, I was just going to say, and that builds the trust, right? Just like, the question was, how do you build trust? I think, doing those things, calling Nathan about the beachfront property and over delivering and sticking out in front of your audience is basically, you're proving your trust, right? You're earning that trust by proving your abilities and being different. I think that's the number one thing we can do, is just prove our trust, and then also be transparent. Because if you're someone different than you're projecting in your branding, marketing, and when you're on the phone in person, it's people pick up on that. So I think that helps build the trust too, and we obviously see that from you guys too. So it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think I could go back to the very beginning of time when I started creating content. And I think comparison being the thief of joy is something that I would pay a lot closer attention to, right? Because I was like everybody else. I'd look at like, what's my competition doing? What are the other people doing that are growing their accounts? What should I be doing? And there's so much noise in this industry. And I discovered, now that I'm on the other side of it, there's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff that happens where people that have 30, 40, 50, 100,000 followers paid for those followers. And you can see it. Even if they have 174 comments on every single post that they do, scroll down the comments, you'll see the same people posting multiple times in the comments, emojis and hearts, and those are paid for services. And I realized, I'm like, why does what they're doing matter to me at all? Right? Why do I care about what they're doing in their business? Because what they're doing has no bearing on what I'm doing, and what I'm doing has no bearing on what they're doing. Right? I know what makes me happy. I know what I'm working towards. And it took me a decade plus to get there, which is why I do these sessions. Is really like, there's probably somebody on this call that loves horses and they're really good at real estate. Make that your thing, right? Make people realize that you absolutely love horses. Tell me what it's like to train a horse and how that translates to working with buyers in the real estate market, and the difficulties and the unexpectedness that can happen if you're in dressage and jumping and hunting, and what that means, and translate that expertise to real estate. Like, you're more than a real estate agent. You're a real estate agent and something else. And I think too far, Nathan, we've gone down the path, and you see it where people see Selling Sunset and the celebritization of our industry, and they're like, well, this is what I have to do to get the clients. Two things I would say to that: you would be shocked at how little business some of those people get from what you think is a large following. Second, you would also be shocked at how miserable some of those people are that are trying to be something that they're not. Roberto Blake, friend of mine that I met on Clubhouse, he wrote a book called Create Something Awesome, massive YouTuber, teaches about YouTube and all this stuff too. He was going in deep the other day about how live streamers that have millions of followers and are making millions of dollars want to just unplug and quit because they've created this monster for themselves that they have to feed. And they're so scared to go back to their previous life that if they don't feed the monster, they're going to lose everything. And how many times do you find people in business that resent the work that they do. They work jobs they hate to buy stuff they don't like to impress people that they don't like, versus you find people that are super passionate about a very niche product. They get to do the things they want to do. They work with people that are aligned in terms of culture and values. They're in the right fit group doing the right fit things. That is what I want everybody to get to, is that place, and realize that's what a true wealth is. It's not, getting the awards or getting on Forbes because you paid them and getting the followers. Like, I've never met anybody that got there and is like, yeah, I'm super happy now because I hit 500 deals or 100,000 followers. Yet I meet other people that are very happy because people they work with, their family, everybody around them respects them, and they're truly happy doing what they're doing. So that would be my answer, Nathan.
So Justin, you mean selling sunset isn't real? I'm so disappointed.
It is to them, right? Like, they love that life. They love the celebrity life. And I think, like, if you look at those people and how they operate, I've got no issue with it, right? The way I live my life is not how they have to live their lives, and vice versa. Here's a random fact about me. I don't really go out after 9 o'clock at night. I was in hospitality. If you know London, I used to run Jim Bob's and Cools forever. It's why I know the entire city. But back in that day, I had a very addictive personality. I struggled with addiction. I broke free. I've been sober for 10 years plus now. I've shared this openly with people. And I know that nothing good in my life happens after 9 or 10 o'clock. Plus, my daughter comes everywhere with me. So, like, I've put parameters around my life that I'm not hobnobbing with people on selling sunset. And I don't want that life, but it's okay if you do. It's just that self-discovery and what makes you happy, right? And what your ambitions are.
Yeah. Awesome. There's a question in the chat here. Someone is asking if talking about real estate all the time does it bore the audience, or can you speak on that a little bit?
It depends how you're talking about it. If you're like, hey, I'm Justin Konikow, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate? Or I'm constantly pitching, or I'm like, look at what I sold and look at my awards. Like, I think that's going to bore your audience like crazy. But if I'm telling you that, there's upwards of $5 million of development happening in the area, and Grand Band's 3,000 or 30,000 a front foot for a teardown on the beach, and we're starting to see resale prices similar to Muskoka, and we may be there in the next 5 to 10 years, that's super interesting. Or if I tell you in London that, hey, guess what? My best friend growing up built the Amazon just outside of London because of the logistics routes, and FYI, Starbucks just set up in St. Thomas, and Ivy and Western are investing another $15 million in this area. So maybe if you want to get into student rentals, this could be a pocket. Like, these are interesting things to the right people, right? I'm just throwing out examples of how I think about it. When I break down branding is just communication, right? And marketing without sales is it's got a time limit on how long that business is going to last. When I got into the business, I was like, okay, I got to sell. And then I realized, oh, wait, I got to market so that I can sell. And then I was like, oh, wait, I got a brand so that I can market so that I can sell. So the through line of communication, I think, can be super engaging if you know who you're talking to. A simple way to do that is if you're posting, here's a homework assignment for everybody here. You want to get good at branding? Think about who you are, what you do, and where you do it. You can post a photo or a story 3 times a day. Take a photo of where you are, what you're doing, or who you're doing it with. I already did it this morning. If you go on my IG, I posted YPN. I said, I'm excited for the keynote. Done. Super simple, right? As you start communicating with your audience, click the little button that says it's being watched by, and start paying attention to who's actually watching your content. I know it's builders, developers, mortgage brokers, real estate agents. I can tell you who my audience is because I pay attention to it. Then your next bit of homework, maybe write this for next week so you don't get overwhelmed. Start asking questions to your audience. What type of information would you like me to post? When you think of me, what are 3 adjectives that describe my content or me? And you'll be shocked at the feedback you get from your audience, because it will tell you what they enjoy and things about your personality traits that you didn't even realize were engaging. So I think if you can bring your personality to the real estate, that's the big unlock. And the last thing I'll say on this piece is, whenever I do one-on-ones with agents, I always ask them 2 questions. I'm like, what could we do better at Prime? And they're all super nice. And they're like, no, everything's great. I'm like, no, I want critical feedback. Like, what could we improve on? But then I ask them, and I'd ask the question to everybody watching, what could you improve on? And they're like, well, let me tell you. I'm like, then they'll dive into it, because everybody's super self-deprecating and they think they're not interesting. But I promise you, if you're around the right community of people and you ask and you audit them and you pay attention, you'll realize that you're a lot more interesting than you may think you are.
Awesome. That's a super great answer. Thanks, Justin. Okay, let's get into some social media. I know we've been chatting a little bit about it, but let's talk about how we can use our social media to enhance our brand, to grow our reach. Let's talk about that.
Okay, I'll show you. We got a question in the chat that I'll answer first. Is that okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it was directly related to the homework assignment. Type homework in the chat if you are going to do this. I'd love to know. When you're posting 3 pics a day, do you include yourself in the pics every time or just pics of what you're doing? I don't do it every time because you don't want it to feel like an ad. You want it to feel organic. Oh, it's amazing, Catherine. I see Rob James. I'll actually talk about him in a second. You want it to feel organic, right? Think of your stories as your vlog. Like people are hanging with you. Like you're going to see, if you hang with me today, you're going to see me jump in my Bronco, go down to Port Franks. I'm going to go to an agent open, then head to the office, probably shoot some content. I got an interview at 3:30, go to a listing appointment. Like you'll see that because I'm every 2 to 4 hours taking a snapshot or just talking to the camera and just sharing what I'm doing because it's fun. I enjoy doing it and it brings people into my world. And you would be shocked at how many people, if you do it that way, are going to reach out to you and be like, I know we haven't talked in 6 years, but it feels like I see you every day. Like the amount of friends I get to reconnect with that knew me in my crazy days when I worked in hospitality and know me now, they've seen the evolution because I let them in, but it's because I stopped caring what other people think about me, right? So you can put yourself in it, but I'd say don't just make it an editorial. You were talking about social media. I'll explain that as well. And let me just share my screen. Here's a few ways that you can do it, and I'll show you examples of it and how I've kind of done it over time. So if I'll use my Instagram because most people understand Instagram. So strategy behind how I do this. Fun fact about Instagram, they just made a statement that they are going back to photos. They were chasing TikTok for the last 2 or 3 years, going heavy on the reels. They literally made a statement that, hey, we made a mistake. We went too far into video. We're coming back on photos. So here's a way that I did it. Guess what? I talk about Grand Bend again. All of you guys are going to send me your referrals to Grand Bend because I've mentioned it like 9 times, right? Here's a photo of the pier that I took. Here's a very in-depth caption that I physically did voice to text to, and then it edited so that it wasn't completely messy because my voice to text are atrocious if you know me. But I talked about my love for photography. My dad telling me when I was a kid that I was an amazing photographer. And I'm sure the photo I took when I was a kid was terrible, but like him saying that to me made me obsessed with photography. That Peter McKinnon print of Lake Louise behind me right there is part of who I am, right? Like I love the visual arts. I genuinely love photography. I put on a hoodie and a hat and I do street photography that I've never shared with the world because I just want to be known as the real estate guy. Now I realize I'm in a world where I can use social media to draw in other people that are in photography, digital arts. I have the production side of the business because I love it. It's my version of a horse. I can't drive a horse. If it doesn't have a key, I can't drive it. So horses are not for me, right? But photography and digital arts are. So you can think about the thing that fills you up and share that with your audience in an effective way. If I go back to my actual profile though, I also understand a large piece of what I do is built around that I'm a real estate agent and people are going to look me up. So this page, I know consumers and agents are following me on. I know because I look at the audience. And this is an example of where I kind of have to do both. So I talk about the prices rising, the mortgage interest rate updates, me actually at properties. That's my amazing wife who owns a business with me. I always try and think about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and where I'm doing it, right? So here's me on a commercial site with Jamie and those guys. I shared my faith earlier, right? That there's a very important post to me that, you know, I share my heart of who I am. So I'm sharing both sides, who I am, but I'm also very heavily leaning into what I do. So my property tours and whatnot, there's a consistent brand consistency of like every so often, oh yeah, Justin sells houses. From Prime's perspective, this is the team, the areas that we cover. And this is much more of a advertisement and your standard kind of real estate pages. I would stay away from this and I would go more heavily on the actual content side, but I'll show you this on the YouTube. Oh, definitely don't want to play this. So if I go to my actual videos, this is my personal brand channel. So I do a podcast every single week where he was on 2 weeks ago. Hedl was on. There's a lot of different people that Levi Latzek down in Texas. Brad McCallum was on. Aviva Sonenrich off TikTok out of Colorado. There's just consistent information around real estate to an audience that likes real estate, is interested in that, right? So I think having a plan around how you're communicating is super important. Here's another contrast, the Prime channel. So you're seeing a lot of our property tours, you're seeing our market updates, and then our masterminds will be here as well too. So again, if I've compartmentalized who I'm talking to and what they enjoy watching, this makes it very, very easy for me to share that content. But I think it starts with the plan and understanding who's the audience, what type of content are they looking for, where can I create that content. Some people are probably having a heart attack being like, oh my gosh, Justin, I got to create content on all these different platforms. And it's overwhelming. And you don't. If you have a plan and you work off a pillar piece of content, my market update video that lives on YouTube is now basically what I create the structure of my newsletter from. So I'm stacking things into different areas. I can take the market update that I did and create a stream of tweets that I'll put on Twitter for the next month because I just talked about it. With ChatGPT and apps like Otter.ai, you can create a pillar piece of content and then disseminate it across all your channels. And it actually doesn't take a lot of your time. It takes time to learn how to do that. I share some of that stuff on my YouTube channel, and there's a million other creators that can show you how to do it. But you have to take time to learn and implement, because where most people go wrong on social, going back to your question, Marissa, is they have a plan, but their plan is just waking up every day and saying, oh, I have to post something today. Where my plan is already mapped out. How many market updates am I going to shoot in a year? 12. How many posts am I going to do on Instagram a week? 3. How many reels am I going to post? 3 to 5, depending. And those go on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. So check. How many Twitter threads am I going to write? 1 a week. How many blogs am I going to write? 1 a week. But I don't do that anymore because I realized it wasn't something that I needed to do, because I do live trainings on my YouTube channel Friday morning. I can transcribe that, and that now becomes my blog. So it's trying, implementing, and changing, but I do think you have to map out an actual content calendar and then execute. Start with one thing. If you're brand new to social, start with stories every 2 hours. It's throwaway content. You don't have to think about it. Then upgrade next week. Check your insights, maybe post once a week, and then just keep adding skills until you get to a place where it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Thank you. We've got a question in the Q&A. Is it necessary to photograph yourself if you're not a selfie obsessed individual?
No, yes and no. So I would say if you're not photographing yourself, you're ubiquitous to every other agent on the planet. If you're just putting photos of nice houses, there's no human connection there, right? So I would say if you're concerned about shooting selfies, get into places where people can shoot selfies for you, right? So once a month, what we do at Prime is we do a mastermind, talk about stacking content. Here's another hack that you guys can implement at your team tomorrow if you want. We host something called the Prime Real Estate Mastermind. We bring in a guest speaker. It's like hand-selected, invite only. It's past clients, very close kind of knit sphere. Last month, we did one with Beth Azor. And I'm going to pull it up actually so I could show you guys that as well. I'm just showing you all of the secrets. Give me 1 second here, because I just dropped this in the group chat this morning. Great timing, because this literally just came in. So Beth Azor, long-term friend that I developed a relationship with through Snapchat and then all of the other platforms. She owns 6 malls in Southwest Florida. She's probably one of the A4 most speakers when it comes to commercial real estate. So I brought her into the Prime office to just talk about the current state of the commercial real estate market, investing strategies, filling buildings, and all that jazz, right? We ended up selling out. We had, I think, 40 some odd people there. We have to move the next one to Toboggan, but we had a photographer there. And this was once, right? We had him come in and we had him photograph all my staff. Jamie hates social media. He's a commercial whiz. Nick, you never see on social media. Taylor and Amanda, they kill it on social media, but a lot of times it's like the lifestyle type photos. Roger works for me. He's commercial airline or commercial helicopter pilot as well too. Never, ever, ever take photo like this. So this is a way that we got into an environment where we were able to show other people, you don't have to be the one shooting the content. Like if you don't want to take selfies, pay a photographer to come hang out somewhere where you're doing something cool for a day and take a whole bunch of pictures. And then you're going to have your posts for the entire month. But again, we're able to do that type of stuff because we have a plan and we're like, okay, we're all going to be there doing this. Let's build it in such a way where it doesn't take any of our time. Sure, it costs us a little bit of money, but that's going to pay dividends for these people.
Thanks. Nathan, Georgia, anything you'd like to add?
Go ahead, Georgia.
Or did Justin just cover everything?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I don't really have too many questions. I know we talked about using social media and building that brand and being authentic. Something that I struggle with a little bit is recording videos, and I'm trying to get back into doing those things and being comfortable. So I'm sure when you started, you were a little bit nervous. I'm sure everybody is. How would you say you got over the hump of, being nervous and looking at yourself and hearing yourself on camera?
It's repetition. That's why I always mention the stories hack. Like, just put a reminder in your phone every 2 hours, post a story, and just do it. You'll find a million excuses not to, because we hate the way we look. My hair is not perfect. I just went through a big hip procedure and I wasn't on social media a ton in December. I had pre-shot content, but when I came out in January, I was pretty rusty. Right. And I get the same, like, I think the other misconception is when I talk about time blocking, content creation, the team, all this stuff, like, I'm no different than anybody here. I've maybe just done it longer and more consistently than most. Right. I said I have a probably an under average level of intelligence, but an over average level of commitment to consistency. So I think that's the answer for you, Georgia, is just commit to posting 3 times a day on stories, then convert that to TikToks. We all know that these platforms convert real business, but we are hard on ourselves. I don't have anything to talk about. Here's another hack for you. Start posting on Twitter about stuff that's related to you and your industry, thoughts about the industry, BOC updates, blah, blah, blah. Alex Hermosi, I learned this from him. When I actually have to sit down and batch 20 or 30 videos, I open my Twitter and then I look at my top performing tweets, and those are my content for my actual videos, right? It's not super complicated. The hardest thing is pressing record and getting used to the fact that you're not talking to a camera. Like, I'm talking to you. So when I'm talking to my phone, because I look at my audience, I feel like I'm talking to John Arts, and I feel like I'm talking to Morgan Pavia, and I feel like I'm talking to names that I see that I know are people in my community, right? So I think being disconnected from the fact that it's content and you're actually talking to a human makes it a lot easier. And also understanding that I think we've gone from a transition where we went from, I won't go back to like the 40s and the 50s, but we just went through like a platform revolution where apps like Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, TikTok, like, they are the everything, right? Because they have the attention. They are now moving from platform being the number one to creators being the number one. You're seeing people leave Netflix en masse. You're seeing people that don't need to be on YouTube anymore. You're seeing large creators that are the asset, able to transplant their audience and go wherever they want. I think why I'm saying that is similar to our conversation earlier, Nathan, about the brand. It's the same thing. Like, the agents are the assets, not the brand. The brands and the brokerages try and build something to hold you hostage because they think that, oh, we've got something. But the reality, you and your connections and who you are as a person is the value, right? And I'm really trying to get people to see the value in themselves and that they are super interesting, and get them past that self-deprecation and those hurdles, because I get them too, right? Like, here's another thing that I don't know if I've shared too publicly. I remember doing a post one day on a listing. This was at the very beginning of COVID. And I posted this listing. We sold it right before COVID, and it was conditional pending on the sale of another home. COVID happened. Nothing was selling. So this conditional pending went on for 6 months. They kept extending it. They kept extending it. It sold in the first 3 days of when we posted it. So technically on the board, it was sold in 3 days, but it didn't close for 6 to 8 months. I posted a story about the sale and we firmed it up. It was crazy how the deal happened, but I just shared the story, and the story's context was, hey, this sold in 3 days. But if you watch the next 3 stories, it explained, but it took me 8 months to actually close it. So as a consumer, FYI, days on market doesn't always translate. Educational, right? I get a DM from an agent in my market, and it's a snapshot of my house and that post. And it says, can you believe, Justin, what a joke. I showed this property yesterday. It's been on the market for 8 months. And this is somebody that I thought was a friend in the industry, right? Like, that I was completely friendly with, I would collaborate, I'd share with, and everything else. And I was like, hey, it's Justin. And we got into a little bit of a dialogue, right? And it wasn't nasty at all. It was just like, hey, if you feel that way about me, it's okay. You can tell me. I understand. And she was like, no, it's totally an accident. It was another property I was talking about. I'm like, okay, no worries. We ended that engagement, and I told her the same thing. I said, if you ever feel like you're following people online that bring negativity to you or make you feel a certain way about yourself, I've unfollowed and I've blocked people, not because they were nasty to me or anything else, but I found myself looking at them, wanting to change who I am to find success in what they were doing. It's a normal human trait. Reason I bring that story up is every time you get 2 steps forward in this game, especially in the real estate industry, the industry as a whole, sometimes people want to step on your neck and they want to make you feel less than. And it is 100% about getting around groups of people like this, YPNs, masterminds, groups of agents that I know give back and don't talk nasty about other people like that. That world is out there, and you need to actively find it, and you need to just shut that noise out, because I could argue and complain and be nasty and talk trash about that person, but never in my life have I met somebody that is doing better than me that talks trash about me. So again, to answer your question, just do it, Georgia, consistently do your homework, and even tag me in it. I want to see you actually posting those stories, and I guarantee you that will lead to some awesome TikToks as well.
And just post it, right? Justin, I think half the battle is people wanting to perfect it, Photoshop it, edit it a certain way to make it amazing, when reality is just post it, be yourself. Like when you shared your Instagram, your personal Instagram, it had real estate in it. Yeah. You're mixing both in there because that's who you are, right? And I think people, like you said, when you're posting about the love of horses, or that's not going to appeal to everyone. Like, I think sometimes we get trapped in trying to make a post that's going to please all of your followers or all of your friends or whatever it is. And that's just not the case, right? Like sometimes it's only going to appeal to a niche or a certain part of your followers and people that watch your content, but that's okay, right? I think a post is better than no post. So hashtag just post it, I guess.
Yeah, post and ghost, actually. And here's another hack if you want to just build your following without actually posting, right? So say you're doing your 3 stories a day. Another tip I'd give you is once a day, go find people that you think you want to engage with and engage with them. If you want to build an audience of real estate agents, go to Sirhan's last post. I bet you're going to find 100 agents. You can click on their profiles, comment on their posts, just build community, right? When we built our followings, it was a lot more work than you think, from the standpoint of every day going into what I call a parking meter. Grand Band's packed on the weekend, and there's all these parking meters, and they're all going to expire, and putting coins in everybody else's meters first, doing stuff like this to build a relationship, and then keep cultivating and working on those relationships. And I think it'll be super helpful. I had mentioned earlier, and I don't want to skip without showing you guys this hack as well too. Go back to my screen share. This is my agent referral map. Right? So what you can actually do with this is you could set up a Google form. So a simple Google form, screenshot this if you want, name, email, phone number, office address, specializations, area of coverage, IG handle, website. This goes into a Google sheet, and then my admin just takes this, and you can create custom maps here. The cool thing about this, I sent a referral out this morning because somebody filled out my agent locator like 6 months ago. We connected on a call. I talked to him. He is a right fit. He's actually going to list their place on Sunday. Check this out. As I zoom out, I've got people in Ukraine and Turkey, right? Because I went out and I went to groups like this and I said, hey, if you want to get on my agent referral map, DM me on IG, we'll make a connection. And I don't necessarily keep everybody in the agent referral map. I look at how people are treating other people in communities. And that's a big piece on how or if they get my business. Because I've gone into this map before and I've seen 3 people in an area. And then I go to real estate hacks because we're all in hacks, and I see how they interact and how they treat people. And I think the big thing, Nathan, is getting around people that treat people the way you want to be treated. And remember what I said about selling Sunset? Sometimes people want to be treated like the greasy salesperson, and there's lots of people there that will be in that sphere, and you should hang with them because they're your people. But I think you got to figure out who your people are and get around them for sure.
All right. There's lots of questions in the chat. One of the questions that I had though, and it speaks to sort of the mindset and what you were talking about in terms of, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with people that are better than you. David Goggins had a really good quote at the Reality conference as well. And he said sort of exactly what you said was, nobody who's talking shit behind your back is doing a better job than you. So I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, Julie. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's YPN, but I don't think there's any 5-year-olds here. So you're okay.
It is true. It's true. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about elevating the people around you. How do you do that? Why is that important? Just open question.
How you do it is by not being attached to the result, right? And it hasn't been perfect for me either. I mean, we went through growth phases at Prime. Back in 2015, we were going to sign a lease for a 4,000 square foot office, recruit 60 agents. We're a brokerage, right? And I realized we didn't want to be a brokerage. Like that wasn't what we wanted to. So it goes all the way back to what I said at the beginning. What are your ambitions? When you're clear on your ambitions, you put it out there and you talk about it, and the right people come to you. Rob James, that was in the chat earlier that I mentioned. He was regional for Good Life, and he would set up brand new locations. Amazing job, very high profile job. He came to me, and we weren't hiring at this time, but he came actually via Matt Campoli and kind of those networks. He saw me on Price to Sell. We had a chat about the business, and we talked about what his ambitions were, and knowing our core values, he spoke to all three. He was driven, intelligence, integrity, and energy. Those were the 4 things I was looking for. And I also reached out to people that knew him to make sure that there was consistency and he wasn't just saying what he said, because anybody can say what they say, right? Then not being attached to the results and not almost expecting people to let you down is how you kind of curate and cultivate it, right? So I'll give you an example where I've hired people in the past where maybe I just hired them very quickly because we didn't have a process in place. Now my wife reviews everything. They actually talk to team members. The team does a lot of that because Justin wants to be friends with everybody. And I had a recent conversation where we left on phenomenal terms. An agent literally sat down with me in November, doesn't really utilize a lot of what we offer from the production, the agency side. He's not super active from an agency perspective. He's in the building space. Really good guy. We get along super well. But he said he doesn't believe the agent's personal brand matters going into the future. And I was like, we're definitely not the right fit for each other, because I definitely think the agent's brand matters a ton. And that's what we're putting our efforts in. We decided to part ways. It ended amazingly. I'm still going to do deals with his brother. They build amazing houses. Like, he's a good guy. And I said to him, like, you call me if you need me. Like, I see a lot of deals, a lot of things in this industry. I sit on professional standards. I love real estate. Yeah. If you're in a place where you need advice from somebody local, let me know. Like, I'm here for you. Right. So I think that's how you can cultivate it, where the right fit people can find their way in and out, and the relationships can stay great if you're not attached to the results. But there's been other times in the past where people have come into the ecosystem, had every bone in their body screaming that they spoke the core values, that this is what they wanted to do and what they mattered. But again, just by not being focused on the outcome, some of those people found their way out of the organization and self-selected out, because our core values and everything we're doing from a daily perspective drive to the core values. Just like I don't want to work with people, and this is just my opinion, that don't value my time. Right? I don't work with investors that are working with 57 different agents in my market. I have the investor report for them that they can see weekly, and they can learn what it's like to work with me, and they can put their hand up to become a client. But I have a fiduciary duty to my investors to work with you, Morrissette, if you're engaged with me under a buyer's representation agreement. The flip side of that is investors think agents are a dime a dozen. I'll work with whoever brings me the deal, right? Guess what? Investors are a dime a dozen, because if the off-market deal is good enough, I could shop it to any investor. So now what? Right? So not being afraid to put parameters in place and say, this is how I do business, and losing business and ending relationships, realizing that those are a good thing. That's how you build the culture, because you have to say no to wrong fit clients and people in order to find the right fit clients and people. Because I promise you, if you try and be everything to everybody, you are going to feel like you're drowning. You're not going to grow. Your production is going to suffer. And because you're trying to manage that chaos, your family life's going to suffer. Your health's going to suffer. Your relationship's going to suffer. And you're going to hate your job because it's going to prevent you from doing the things that you love, which may be riding horses. So reverse engineer it.
Thanks, Justin. Nathan, Georgia, anything you want to add in terms of elevating the people around you and surrounding yourself with good, awesome people?
I don't have too much chat. I know we only have 5 minutes left, that I'm on part of a team. So it's really easy to kind of be in that atmosphere and be motivated with the people around you. And if you're not on a team, go into the brokerage, right? Everyone, I'm sure within your brokerage is there to support you. And especially within mine, everyone is always really uplifting. So surround yourself with like-minded people and yeah, get yourself out there.
I just want to say, like, we're competitors, but we can't think that way. We're in this together. We're in this industry together. If we elevate each other and hold each other, I don't want to say accountable, but help each other out. We're only helping us in the entire industry as a whole, right? Whether it's simple things like sending someone a little bit of an encouragement note, or that was a great post or a great listing. Even in a nice way, maybe sending someone a nice little note about the incorrect information on the MLS sheet that you noticed in a nice way, because that's raising the bar of professionalism, right? You notice a mistake, maybe not post about it to everyone and show everyone the mistake, but maybe just kindly say that, hey, I noticed this. I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but maybe correct it. And I think when we do that, and obviously surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals will help, but just be positive to others and stop thinking of them as competition, right? Like, help them out. Like, they need something, help them out. It's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think being a human being is the way to go, right? I think we take ourselves way too seriously. We try to project these images of ourselves, but we're all little kids that just grew up, right? And if we were on the playground, we would have to sort out those relationships. I like your tip about the incorrect information. I would say be conscious of the relationship. If you just text somebody in this industry, they can take it completely the wrong way. Use it as an opportunity, pick up the phone. The open house I'm headed to today, they're two great agents that I haven't worked to deal with in a long time. And like, they could deem me as a competitor. Oh, Justin's around, he's going to take my business, but it's not the reality. I want to support them. I want them to feel good because they're not taking any food off my plate. And this industry could be the best fraternity if we treat it that way. Michael Saracini shared this with me once. And he said there's 4 types of people: parasites, predators, there's competition, and collaborators. And he's like, the parasites and the predators are always trying to take advantage of the collective and the sheep and the people that are in the community. The competition is like, hey, I see a fire in every person here. Everybody that's on this call, I like that you're here because you're learning, right? You're doing something in your business that I'd like to get to know you, and we can move from competitors to collaborators. I've learned more from other agents in this business than I've ever learned from just going at it myself, right? So I completely agree with that statement.
All right, so we're going to wind this down because we've only got 2 minutes left. I don't want to speak for Justin, but I totally am going to speak for Nathan and Georgia and myself. We're all around. We're all focused on growth, and we're all focused on mind share and helping each other out. So if you want to reach out, if you've got questions, if you give us a follow, we'll give you a follow back to try to grow that reach. Any parting words, Justin, before we finish this off? I am, for one, super thankful that we had the opportunity to chat for an hour. I got a lot of takeaways. So thank you on behalf of the YPN. Any parting words?
No, I'm far more accessible than you may think I am. There's a guy that I did a 30-minute call with yesterday that's just been following me on Instagram. And I forgot he reached out to me like a year ago, and he's really struggling. And we had a good chat yesterday about some basics he can do. I think the biggest misconception about me is I'm too busy to help. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. That's my personal website and that mailing list that I talked about. There's actually some resources and free PDFs there. Again, I'm not selling any coaching. I don't recruit at all, so you don't have to worry about any of that. If you want to get on, say, my agent referral map, or you want to connect with me one-on-one, that actually goes to my email. I see all of those, and I'm here to help. So, I think my favorite thing is, if you got something from this, pay it forward to somebody else. If you see a junior agent at your office struggling, hey, let them know about YPN, send them the link to the next webinar, collaborate. Like, the fact that we're here. I remember when I sat down with Julie, I was at Buzz Conference speaking, randomly sat at our table, and we started chatting, and I was so fired up with what she was doing and what you guys are doing, that it is a community or a village that is going to elevate you to the next level. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think it's one of the best things in our industry.
Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Get posting, do your homework. Thanks, Justin.
All right. See you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.